Yo guys, Vision SGN here, bringing you more Marvel Rivals content. In today's video, I'll be breaking down the top 5 ranged heroes in the game right now, which is episode 5 of my mini-series, where I break down each category of heroes into smaller categories of both roles and playstyles, where all of the heroes in the game right now are ranked based on the latest update. So on that note, let's get right into it. Now, as for this episode, which is slightly different to the other episodes in this series, this will be a top 5 ranking, as there are just too many DPS heroes in this game, and it didn't feel justified to make this a top 3. So instead, just like with my previous episodes on this channel for the top 3 vanguards and strategists, I also made a top 5 duelists previously, as there's just too many to choose from, all of which have different playstyles and abilities. But for this episode, we will be breaking down the best ranged duelists in the game, and seeing as this is episode 5, I also thought that would be fitting. And for anyone new, just before I explain this list, I want to further address what I meant about subcategories of heroes and why I think this series will be great at providing more detail for each of the heroes in this game and what category they fall into or what subcategory they best fit for. So for example, when we talk about duelists and what the top 3 or top 5 duelists in the game are, there are so many different subcategories or smaller playstyles that they fall into. Are we talking about ranged, hybrid, dive, you name it? There's so many different styles, just like with the vanguards, that they all fall into. And I do think it's important that players understand there's more than just 3 basic categories and playstyles for each of the heroes in this game, and not just the vanguard, duelist and strategist playstyles. So for example, when you're playing in a system where you have an all dive team, you don't want to be those players that just sitting back isolated on their own if you're playing against the likes of a Spider-Man or a Venom setup, because you're going to be isolated and just be a free kill. So it's understanding what your team lacks and what heroes fall into which category, so that when you need to make adjustments in the likes of rank play or even just a casual experience, you will know what works best and why. Now, based on the current meta right now, here are the top 5 ranged heroes who thrive at dealing damage from distance, and these rankings will consider all areas of a duelist playstyle and their gameplay, from both damage output, their abilities, and their effectiveness, as well as their precision. And the term range is purely referring to heroes who primarily rely on projectiles and excel at that more medium to long range area, as opposed to more close quarter specialists. So coming in at number 5, in my opinion, is Squirrel Girl. She is a really effective character, a real problem to deal with. I can't stand her, and I think she's one of the most simple characters and really easy to use, but she seems to be really hard to take out of a system when you have a really aggressive frontline team against you, where she can just thrive and constantly apply pressure from really deep and sit there just constantly holding R2, dealing a crazy amount of area of effect damage, AoE, which deals 120 damage per shot with splash that can bounce off walls and really delay a pace of a game. This is a strategist nightmare, because they really can't do much and really just hope that your DPS and your duelists on your team are going to be able to deal with this character. But for the most part, if she's put in the right system and has a group maybe as a frontline player, as a vanguard, she can really thrive and be a problem in this system. And because of her crowd control ability with the acorn, it allows her to play on her own quite isolated, because if anyone dives on her, she actually has a good advantage if you know how to hit the shot. And as well as this, the ultimate is really effective and causes a lot of problem on point pressure and alleviating teams when they're trying to aggro the backline players. So in my opinion, definitely one of the best range characters in the game. And as well as this, she has great mobility, who can move around the map and really apply some constant damage to, as I mentioned, those strategists, which really disrupts the earning and the speed of which you get those healing ultimates. That pretty much changes the game, and for the most part, this is why she comes in at number 5 on this list. But my overall opinion on her is that she does need to get nerfed, purely because I can't stand her, because it's so easy and what we call brain dead in this game. The ultimate is just earned far too quickly. It's actually the fastest ultimate in the game to earn, and just overall as a character, I think she's far too simple and powerful of a character to use. Others may disagree, and we can talk about that at the end of the video, but that's why she comes in at number 5 on this list. Now, coming in at number 4, in my opinion, is the Punisher, who is a really effective ranged and close quarter hero, but for the most part, dealing damage from range with the likes of the rocket team up ability, he is really effective, and with that turret ability, we all know when that is placed in the right locations can cause a problem for a team. And it's probably worth clarifying that, of course, any of these heroes in this list don't necessarily mean they just sit back and deal range damage, but from range, they are really effective, and that's why Punisher is in this list and ranks at number 4, because when you sit deep with a Punisher, he is really hard to alleviate, and you really do have to make, for the most part, adjustments on your team to try and adapt to a Punisher that's sitting deep, because you can't just dive on this guy freely and then get away with it, unless the other team leaves him isolated, of course. But if he's put in the right system, just like with Squirrel Girl, he can be really effective and constantly cause your team issues, especially disrupting the pace of a game, because he's just going to constantly rain fire and deal consistent amount of damage that really does just slow down the pace of a game drastically. And for the most part, he is unstoppable when he gets his ultimate, when he plays around his players really well, uses the turret in the right locations, and constantly has that team ability with Rocket. So coming in at number 3 is is Hawkeye, who is one of my personal favorites in this game. I myself am a Vanguard main, and this hero causes my teams a lot of issues whenever I come across him at the higher levels in competitive. And when this character is played right and can hit his constant critical shots, he is really effective and really fun to use. I've actually recently just started using him on casual because I'm trying to learn and get used to this character, and I can't stop trying to use him because he's so much fun to use. And when you can land those combinations, those headshots, and you can do a double kill or pick off a triple kill here and there, it makes it really satisfying. And not even to mention with the ability to be able to take other heroes out of their ultimates, especially those healers like Luna and Cloak and Dagger. When you use his ultimate and just try and hit a critical shot, you can literally take out anyone in the game with one shot. More so those squishier targets like duelists and strategists, but he can cause a lot of problems when in skilled hands on those backline players, creating a lot of issues, and is a strategist nightmare, especially with pinpoint accuracy. He can deal a crazy amount of burst DPS, and in my opinion is why he's one of the best and most fun heroes to use, and definitely ranks in top 3 in my opinion for ranged heroes in this game due to his consistent damage output. And if you're playing casual or with a friend, I would highly recommend playing this character with the likes of Black Widow for the team ability, and the two of them are a really good and effective and also fun to use duelist setup from range, who can be really effective at both shutting down dive heroes when they work together and just overall changes the dynamic of the game massively, and definitely why he ranks in the top 3 for me. Now coming in at number 2 is Storm, probably one of the most commonly banned heroes at the competitive level in my ranks in Celestial. She seems to never be allowed to be used, but when she does and when she is used, she is a real problem and a force to be reckoned with on the map. And with the team up ability with the likes of Captain America and Thor in that setup in particular, she seems to be really effective as she is free to constantly apply deep range damage with the team up ability that she can also gain, and also with the likes of Cap and Thor being able to constantly disrupt the other team. It seems to be where she's most effective, and also where I found her to be really fun to use because you are just pretty much free to do what you want, and as long as you play alongside your supports and you protect them, you are pretty much in for a really fun game. And not even to mention the ultimate ability, which is really fun, and in this gameplay I've actually shown my first ever time using Storm and the ultimate ability, which was really fun and a real eye-opener for me. But if you combine the likes of Storm with the Human Torch as well in a casual environment, that is a really fun ultimate ability to use when you pair the two together, because that makes that fiery tornado which can tear through any setup in the game, and it's really satisfying to use. And I'm still yet to get a cool clip with it, but it's something I've definitely been trying to use and also really enjoyed doing so. Now for me, she definitely ranks in the top 3 for the best ranged heroes in the game. She's probably a top 3 duelist in the game as well in general, based on the latest update, and as I mentioned, considering how often people ban her, I think she's definitely one of the best and most effective ranged heroes in the game. But also worth mentioning that she does have the highest win rate in the game as of March 2025 across all of the heroes in the game, with a 58% win rate, which directly shows how great she is as a hero and also how dominant she is of a duelist and a ranged hero. Now coming in at number 1 on this list is Hela, who seems to be the most effective and simple to use hero in the game for the most part, relying heavily on her primary attack, the Night Sword Thorns, which deals 70 damage to the body and 140 damage, so double to any critical shots that she lands. She is one of the easiest characters to use in my opinion, really fun to use but also really effective, and especially at the highest level, not even to mention the ultimate ability, which is really the main reason most characters use her, which is pretty much uncounterable unless you have the likes of a Doctor Strange on your team. Now, from a long-range perspective, she does have a significant damage drop-off, so she may not be the best in that perspective, but with good accuracy, she deals a great amount of damage, and when you know how to use all of the abilities and you can combine successive hits, you can pretty much eliminate any squishy target with 2 hits, which makes her really effective. And with the likes of her being able to counter the likes of Storm and other long-range duelists with ease, this, in my opinion, is why she ranks so high on this list, because she is pretty much the number 1 counter to the other long-range duelists in this game. So if you're trying to use a long-range system or have a setup where you have someone that's sitting deeper, she is the best one to be using in my opinion. As I mentioned, she literally shuts down the others in this list better than any of the others do to her. So for me, definitely why she comes in at number 1 on this list, and also considering how simple she is to use, and not even to mention the team ability that she provides both Thor and Loki, which makes them far more effective, which in my opinion doesn't factor into why I've ranked her so highly, but if you do consider it, it is a no-brainer when you factor in all of the outcomes of this character and what she provides for the team. But considering how simple she is to use and with the crazy amount of damage output, and if you just have good aim, you are going to pretty much take out majority of the targets in this game, and considering how many heroes there are in this game, such as duelists and strategists, who are what we call squishy, this is definitely why she ranks so highly. Now, of course, I couldn't finish this video without giving an honorable mention, as a tradition with all of these episodes, for other heroes who are definitely worth considering as the best ranged heroes in the game. And for me, Black Widow, who I know people are going to disagree with and think I'm just trolling, but this character is so much fun, and if you have good aim, which I'm not claiming I do by any chance, But if you do have good aim, this character is really fun to use and really effective. And as I mentioned before, in a casual environment, her and Hawkeye together are actually really effective because she gains that cool team up ability, which is effectively like a second ultimate by any means. And she is really fun and simple to use. And if you can just land headshots, you are going to have a really easy time and also a fun time. I've created some cool clips. I mean, I reckon I only have about 2 hours maximum on this character, but I've got some really cool clips where I've been able to shut down the likes of Spider-Man and Wolverine and then just pick off some cool snipe headshots from range, dealing a crazy amount of damage because she can pretty much two-tap anyone in the game. As I mentioned, there are so many squishy heroes in this game where she thrives on removing. If you can just hit your shots, you are going to have a really fun time. And while she can be considered to be a viable hero in this game, but of course the character does need buffing in the next update in order to make her more viable. But from a range perspective, you can definitely get away with using this character in a casual environment just to have some fun. But also, if you're really good at using this character at the lower levels in competitive, I think she could be used. But as I mentioned, this ranking was based on the latest Season 1.5 update and of course is up for debate. But for the main reason this video is a top 5 series instead of a traditional top 3 as a part of my mini-series, this is because, as I mentioned, there's just too many options that I didn't feel justified making a top 3. And as you can see, even with a top 5, it still feels as though I've missed a fair few characters that I probably should have argued. But that's for you guys to let me know down below in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Visionist Gen, and I'll see you in the next one.